point of order. In the past days, many of you might have heard about the issue of the First Lady of Zimbabwe, Grace Mugabe, versus Gabrielle Engels from South Africa. So, I've been getting these questions from colleagues and friends, in particular regarding the issue of immunity, which Grace Mugabe is evoking to shield herself from prosecution in South Africa. So, because I'm lazy to type stuff, I just decided maybe to record this video and discuss the position of international law, or what international law says in regard to this particular issue. So I'm basically going to discuss 4 points, maybe starting with brief facts of what happened in this particular case. Secondly, the law relating to diplomatic immunity and how it is applicable in this particular case. And thirdly, I'm going to give some recommendations on the way forward, both regarding to what Zimbabwe should do and what the government of South Africa should do. And finally, I would also want to just, address in short some of what I call the irrelevant facts to this particular case. So I will start now with the brief facts of this particular issue. Many of you are aware that, some few days ago, there was an incident or an allegation, so to say, that the First Lady of Zimbabwe, Grace Mugabe, flew to South Africa, where she allegedly assaulted Gabrielle Engels over some allegations also that that particular young lady was influencing her sons to behave in a particular manner. As I want also to make clear from the beginning of this small talk which I'm having with you, is to say that I'm not really going to address the morality or such kind of issues regarding the actions of Grace Mugabe. Rather, I'm just going to focus on the international law part of it. Now, after the said incident or the alleged assault on this particular young lady, Grace Mugabe at one point is said to have committed to go to a local South African police station to hand herself over in preparation of the case will be before the court of law. This did not happen. Reports also started coming in to say that Grace Mugabe was nowhere to be found. Others also started alleging that Grace Mugabe was already back in Zimbabwe, so to say. At this particular moment, Zimbabwe was kind of silent on this issue. Only later on, they started now to come up with a presentation to say Grace Mugabe was in South Africa on official business of the government. As such, they were invoking diplomatic immunity, that she cannot be arrested or prosecuted in South Africa. The basis of such presentation that she was on government business was in reference to the SADC summit, which is occurring in Pretoria, and it's starting from the 19th of August, so to say, to the 21st. Now, it is clear from the facts which are given that when Grace Mugabe, or when this incident happened, this was before the said summit had started. Well, they may be arguing that probably, Grace Mugabe had, gone ahead of President Robert Mugabe to set a platform. Who knows? Nevertheless, it is clear that President Robert Mugabe only arrived in South Africa for this particular summit on the 17th of August, on the night of the 17th of August. and it's not clear whether he is accompanied by Grace Mugabe, but it seems there is a presumption to say Grace Mugabe remains in South Africa because he was particularly in South Africa for that particular summit. Now, those are the brief facts which I think are relevant to the law or international law which is applicable as far as this issue is concerned. What does the law on diplomatic immunity say regards this issue? When you're talking of the law on diplomatic immunity, the relevant treaty is the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961. Because by 1961, Zimbabwe was not a state as yet. So Zimbabwe only managed to what we call accede or through accession to be part to this Vienna Convention on 31 May 1996. South Africa is also part to this Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961, which is ratified on the 21st of August in 1989. Now, this treaty is an international law treaty. It has provisions or articles which govern how diplomatic immunity can be given, can be waived, and under what circumstances it applies and to whom it also applies. There is also a general consensus amongst scholars that the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, so to say, is acquired some status of customary international law. Customary international law is ranked higher in international law because even states who may not be part to this Vienna Convention are also bound by it. Now, there are specific relevant articles which I will refer to you, in particular when we're talking to diplomatic immunity, Article 29, Article 31, Article 37, and Article 41. I will in turn address each of these articles in what it says. Now, in terms of Article 29 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, it specifically states as follows. The person of a diplomatic agent shall be inviolable. He shall not be liable to any form of arrest or detention. The receiving state, in this particular case, South Africa, shall treat him with due respect and shall take all appropriate steps to prevent any attack on his person, freedom, or dignity. And Article 31, which is more relevant to this particular case, states as follows in Article 31, subsection 1. A diplomatic agent shall enjoy immunity from the criminal jurisdiction of the receiving state, in this particular South Africa. He shall also enjoy immunity from its civil and administrative jurisdiction, except in some cases. For example, where someone is trying to take advantage in terms of commercial relations. Now, it is clear that these provisions which I'm referring to are only applicable to those who are diplomats. Now the question follows, what many people have been asking is to say, Grace Mugabe is not a government official. She is not occupying any government post, so to say. Their position is with ZANU-PF, which is only a political party. Does she enjoy diplomatic immunity in this particular regard? Yes, the question is yes. Where Grace Mugabe, for example, is traveling with Robert Mugabe on a government mission or on a mission related to government activities, she enjoys diplomatic immunity. And this is in terms of Article 41. Not Article 41, pardon me. Article 37, so to say. Article 37 provides as follows. The members of the family of a diplomatic agent forming part of his household shall, if they are not nationals of the receiving state, in this particular case, South Africa, enjoy the privileges and immunities specified in Article 29 to 36. So, Grace Mugabe, by virtue of being wife to President Robert Mugabe, if she was traveling on official business to South Africa in particular for that summit, then she is covered by diplomatic immunity from any criminal prosecution. Now, what will be in dispute in this particular case is whether when Grace Mugabe traveled to South Africa, was actually traveling particularly for that summit, or in actual fact, this is now an issue of trying to sanitize the whole action. How do you find out whether or not she was traveling, but in particular for that particular summit? The receiving state, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, always receive communications of the members or the head of mission of a particular government, if they are coming on a government mission, whom they will agree that this person can come to our country protected under diplomatic immunity. So that information, South Africa must have it. This is probably one of the reasons why in certain quarters in the South African government, many actually have been arguing to say South Africa, Grace Mugabe may not enjoy diplomatic immunity. There is one point though, which I also need to emphasize in this particular regard, and it relates to Article 41 of the said convention, so to say. What I would want to emphasize in this regard is to say this. The law of diplomatic immunity, this is not a license to government officials or those who are traveling on these missions to be committing crimes in foreign state carte blanche. That is not its purpose. Its purpose is to protect government officials from harassment or unnecessary harassment when they are in foreign states, so that they can be smooth running of official business that occurs between states, state A and state B, or among states. This is not a license for someone to be going into a particular foreign country and committing crimes. This is the reason why even the drafters of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations in Article 41 emphasize as follows: without prejudice to their privileges and immunities, it is the duty of all persons enjoying such privileges and immunities to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state. They also have a duty not to interfere in the internal affairs of that state. I repeat, without prejudice to their privileges and immunities, it is the duty of all persons enjoying such privileges and immunities to respect the laws and regulations of the receiving state. In this particular case, South Africa. So, in the event that the allegation against the First Lady Grace Mugabe are true, that she assaulted this young lady, Gabrielle Engels, this was in violation of the South African laws, and this is not in the spirit of what diplomatic immunity is meant to protect. This is actually now abuse of the laws, the abuse of the privileges granted under diplomatic immunity. What happens? I should make it clear from the word go that in as far as this may be an abuse, still South Africa may not have jurisdiction in as long as Grace Mugabe qualifies for that diplomatic immunity and it has not been waived. This brings me to my third point regarding recommendations, as to say what is the way forward. Now, what are the obligations? On the issue of the way forward, I said I was going to address two aspects: the obligations of Zimbabwe and the obligations of South Africa. In regard to the obligations of Zimbabwe, in terms of Article 31.4 of the said convention, it states clearly as follows: the immunity, which I've been discussing for the past few minutes now, of a diplomatic agent from the jurisdiction of the receiving state sorry, let me take that again. The immunity of a diplomatic agent from the jurisdiction of the receiving state does not exempt him or her from the jurisdiction of the sending state. What does this mean? Article 31, subsection 4, what it means is that inasmuch as First Lady Grace Mugabe may enjoy immunity from prosecution within South Africa, this does not excuse her from being prosecuted in Zimbabwe. In other words, Zimbabwe has an obligation to prosecute Grace Mugabe for a crime she committed or allegedly committed in South Africa. I know when we consider, impunity tendencies, in particular in some of our African countries, to which Zimbabwe is not an exception, the viability of this option is very, very limited. But this is actually an obligation which was on Zimbabwe to prosecute, to actually investigate this particular case. And one of the cases that is offhand or come to my mind, I can give you an example of Russia regarding the case of Andrei Nyaves in 2001. Andrei was a diplomat posted in Canada. He decided to take liquor, these waters of wisdom, got drunk, and he was behind the wheel. He swerved over off the road onto the pavement, where he hit a certain lady, Miss McLean, who then died. Now, this particular Andrei from Russia, he was from a diplomat from Russia. He also claimed diplomatic immunity. I cannot be prosecuted in Canada. And again, the Russian government did not waive his immunity. In the event, the government of Canada could not prosecute Andrei. But upon Andrei's return to Russia, Russia did the right thing. They prosecuted Andrei, and he was convicted. In sentenced in 2002, actually, for the crime he had committed in Canada. In this particular regard, this is where we say, is it even possible? Maybe not. But does the law sanction it? Yes, it does. Zimbabwe has an obligation, actually, to prosecute Grace Mugabe in Zimbabwe for this alleged crime. That is, if they insist that she enjoys diplomatic immunity. That's another option. Another option where a country can actually comply with the law, can show its goodwill towards international law, can be in terms of Article 32, subsection 1. Article 32, subsection 1 of the said convention specifically states as follows. The immunity from jurisdiction of diplomatic agents and of persons enjoying immunity under Article 37 may be waived by the sending state. In this regard, this is where a sending state may choose to say that, look, we know that you are covered by diplomatic immunity. However, because of your conduct in this particular regard, which was not related really to your official business in the country where we sent you, we are waiving that immunity which you enjoy. In this particular, the government of Zimbabwe may waive the immunity of Grace Mugabe and allow her prosecution in South Africa. But given the facts in this particular case, that may actually be highly unlikely, so to say. But however, I would emphasize to say, in the event that the government of Zimbabwe choose not to do any of the two options, waiving immunity of Grace Mugabe or choosing not to prosecute her in Zimbabwe or investigate what actually transpired, the Zimbabwean government will be in violation of its international obligations, which include, but not limited to, the rights of this particular young lady, because in international human rights also apply extraterritorially to mean that even if an event happens outside the jurisdiction of a state, if its nationality is involved, it is supposed to remedy the situation. Now, I'll move to the second issue on the way forward regarding what actually South Africa can do. In this particular regard, I'm saying the obligations of South Africa are really more important. I can even distinguish it from the case of al-Bashir. You may know that in the previous years, South Africa has been actually involved in a legal battle as far as the issues of immunity and foreign government agents are concerned. When al-Bashir came to South Africa and South Africa failed to arrest him for allegations of his crimes against humanity, torture, and others in Sudan, South Africa was, criticized by the civic organizations, was criticized by international scholars to the extent that actually they had to go to the Hague before the International Criminal Court to discuss this issue and defend South. And recently, in actual fact, the International Criminal Court ruled that it was wrong of South Africa not to arrest al-Bashir, and that the claim which was being given that al-Bashir actually enjoys immunity didn't apply. In this particular case, I'm saying the stakes are even higher because one of the individuals involved is actually a South African national. And these are the duties actually of South Africa to make sure they protect their own citizens. So in the event that Zimbabwe, first, refused to waive immunity, or secondly, does not prosecute Grace Mugabe in Zimbabwe, that is not the end of the case. South Africa is, in terms of its international obligations, is also supposed to follow up the issue, to even apply diplomatic pressure on Zimbabwe to make sure that they do the right thing. In the event that Zimbabwe is adamant, these are situations where actually South Africa, in terms of that convention, can actually take Zimbabwe to the International Court of Justice, trying to compare or to have a ruling, in particular, this issue that they are refusing to waive immunity, they are not even remedying this particular situation, the alleged crime, so to say. But what are the possibilities that these two governments are able to do that? It is common cause that ZANU-PF, ANC, of late, had been accused, especially their leadership, for loving impunity, not wanting to prosecute those who are in leadership for alleged crimes, even for those which are proven. But my purpose for this particular talk was to simply say that this is the position of international law in this regard. Now I'll go to the fourth issue, which is the last issue for this talk before I leave for home. I think I was going to discuss the issue of some irrelevant facts. It was said earlier, I was listening online to the young lady Gabrielle Engels, whom I really sympathize with for what she went through, or if what she went through is actually the truth, because these are allegations. Now, she was defending herself on radio, live on radio, saying that I would want to make it clear that there are rumors which are circulating to say that, I heard it coming because I'm a hooker. What was I doing in the rooms of these two boys that late in the night, etc., etc. Now, why I would want to refer to these as irrelevant facts, even this young lady, Gabrielle Engels, she doesn't even need to be defending whether or not she's a hooker or not. That's irrelevant to this issue. It's common cause that in most cases, and it's very unfortunate, where women have been victimized, where women are victims of violence, the society always wants to go and ask, what did she do? Did she deserve it? That is beside the point. No one under the law on this earth has a right to use physical violence against anyone. So whether or not this lady it's not an issue of her morals. She doesn't even need to defend that. The question is on whether Grace Mugabe actually assaulted the lady, which is an unlawful act. So what I would want to, especially to most of the people who are commenting on this issue, let us not be, streamlined or be led astray to start looking and discussing what did this lady do, or was she with these boys. That's irrelevant. The question is, did Grace Mugabe assault her? If Grace Mugabe did that, then she violated the laws of South Africa. Did she qualify for, or does she qualify for immunity that is largely dependent on what South African or the Foreign Ministry of South Africa is going to say, in particular of the information they have, whether Grace Mugabe actually traveled to South Africa on a diplomatic mission or not? If she did, of course, she is protected by diplomatic immunity as a member of Mugabe's family. But that is not the end of the matter. If Zimbabwe refused to waive immunity, then it is supposed to prosecute Grace Mugabe. If Zimbabwe chooses not to prosecute Grace Mugabe, South Africa still has an obligation to influence the events in this particular case. With that, I hope I've answered some of the questions which I've been receiving in my inbox and calls. Later.